former President Donald Trump on his way to New York City right now ahead of tomorrow's arraignment. A lot of anticipation surrounding what will happen. So let's break it down with someone who knows a lot about criminal procedure, Georgetown law professor and criminal procedure expert, Mushtaq Gunja. I hope I got your name right. Can we hear Mr. Gunja?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you sure got my name right. Thank you, Marina.
You got it. So let's talk about tomorrow. There's been a lot of questions as to how this will go. It is unprecedented, a historic moment. A former president not only being indicted, but going before a state judge on these charges, what would be a first appearance. What does that look like for someone like Mr. Trump?
Yeah, it is unprecedented. It's a little bit difficult to know for sure. The Secret Service, I think, will be handling all of the logistics of getting the president, into court. And so that's all going to work, I think, pretty smoothly. Typically, at an initial appearance and arraignment, what will happen is the defendant will plead not guilty. The defendant will have the charges read to him for the first time, and then the judge will make a decision about detention or not detention. So with President Trump, this is a nonviolent offense, we assume, and so he will be released, and we will figure out from the judge what the conditions of release will be.
Okay, so we know that these charges, obviously, they're under secret, they're sealed because it was an indictment by the grand jury, so we'll be learning for the first time these charges tomorrow when he goes before the judge. You're talking about releasing him. Any chance that they rescind or he must turn in his passport? Are they going to consider him a flight risk? And also, how hard is the prosecution going to fight here for a gag order? Because we know that this could be something that Mr. Trump would probably like to talk about and use it as a campaign strategy here. Will a judge really enforce this, and how much power do they have here?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Hard to know. I don't think that they are going to consider President Trump a flight risk. He is one of the most recognizable people in the world. I don't know that there's anywhere he could go that would, where he could really hide. So I don't think we have that concern. I do think that there's a question about whether the judge will issue some sort of gag order. Those are not typically sort of a condition that a judge will do on first instance. So, I think we would have to see whether or not President Trump said some things that were inflammatory, after the charges were levied. But I think it's unlikely that we'll see a gag order in the, tomorrow. What we will probably see is the judge asking President Trump to refrain from contacting witnesses, because there is a little bit of an element here of worrying about witness tampering, at least in the previous trial with Michael Cohen. Well, so we might see that. Yeah,
he's expected to fly back down to Mar-a-Lago following this arraignment. He says he will hold a rally tomorrow night.
Of course he is.
I imagine he'll talk about a lot of this, as is his right to do so. But of course, the judge can't impose that gag order because there is a pending trial here.
But
before we leave, really quickly, we know a lot of it has been asked about mugshots, fingerprinting. I can't imagine that someone who's going to be released will ever have to sit through a full processing, changing into inmate uniform, all of that. I imagine he'll be mugshotted and printed and processed like any other defendant, but that's where it stops.
I think that's probably right, and I know that there are several news organizations that have asked for access to the courtroom so that we can have sort of live video. I don't think the judge has made a decision on that. I sort of doubt that will occur. And if there are no cameras, then I think this will be handled as routinely as possible. I have all the confidence in the world that the Secret Service, FBI, New York courts are going to be able to do this in a professional manner.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And safety, of course, paramount there because they're guarding that courthouse like probably the best there. Mushtaq Gunja, we appreciate you coming on the DMV Zone and kind of walking us through what to expect tomorrow.
No, thank you.
Now, he's not going to honor that gag order. He's going to talk.
We'd have to see if first they impose it.
I already know this, man. I've been watching him since the 80s. He's going to talk about it all day tomorrow at that rally.